Good morning, everyone. I'm Cindy Adams. I am the Marketing and Special Events Manager for the City of Eden, and welcome to this monthly edition of F.Y.I. I have with me my coworker and friend, Ken White. He is our Economic Development Specialist in Planning and Community Development, and that is our focus today.
Yes.
That is a busy, busy office.
People don't realize what actually we take on.
Yeah, so
a lot of that we fill in a lot of holes.
Well, we're going to kind of fill in some of those holes today and let people know just how important this department is. Well, we know the rain is out there today. Grass is growing.
It is that.
We all have to mow. It's not one of those favorite things. Some people it is. It's like therapy for some. But tell us what happens when, we have some homeowners who have some high grass and neighbors start complaining and you get all the calls. Yeah. Tell us that process of how that happens.
So we are in now what we consider high grass season. That kind of goes with the seasons. If your neighbor doesn't mow their yard, you can call us. If it goes into where it's unsightly and, it's causing bugs and things like that, we'll send an inspector out there. We consider high grass a nuisance when it gets 12 inches or above. If it is 12 inches, it's pretty high. Mm-hmm. But, over time, we have to give the people the chance to do it and look after it themselves. So if somebody calls us in, we send an inspector out. It's a process. This is not, and we try to explain this to people. That's why I'm glad I'm here this morning, because it's not an instant thing. It takes us, we send out the inspector. The inspector determines it is 13 inches tall, that where it needs to be thin. Then he comes back, we do a report, we mail out a letter to the owner for the deed. Then they have, from the day we mail the letter, they have 14 days to take care of it. Mm-hmm. At 14 days, past that, we go out and re-inspect. If they're taken care of, it gets marked off the books. If it is not taken care of, then we put it back in our system, keep it in the system, and then we send somebody, a contractor from the city, to take care of it. At that point, that bill goes as kind of a lien on the house. That has to be taken care of. And depending on what has to be cleaned up, and it's not just high grass, it's bushes that are blocking views and making it hard for people to drive down the road or pull out a neighbor's driveway. Branches and trees falling that, we can't do a lot about trees because trees are their own special thing, but junk, broken windows, open doors, things like that. They're just unsightly and unsafe.
Well, and we talked about this a little earlier. There's health reasons too. Absolutely. For when you get piles and piles of things. And tell us, why is this important for health reasons?
Well, like I said, insects carry diseases, and then you get stagnant water, and it just keeps it cleaner. If it's cleaner, it's just cleaner. It's safer. People going and getting cut, or people walking through a yard they're not supposed to be in.
Rats,
which there's, that's, everybody says there's a rat in my yard. Rats tend to stay where the food is, so they don't travel like over 2 and 3 houses like some people assume they do. Mm-hmm. But rats, everything carries, animals, they just carry. You don't, if you have a pile of trash, you're more likely to get like raccoons and stuff. And, I know we live in the city, but we've all seen, deer and raccoons and foxes and all those animals, while they're pretty in the wild, I'm not sure my yard is the place for them.
Right. We talked about crime. When you're neat, with reasonably neat, it can deter crime.
Absolutely. If somebody's going down a street and a house is obviously vacant, the grass isn't mowed, there's newspapers piled up, that's the house that they know nobody's looking after.
Right. And on top of all that, we take a lot of pride in our city.
Absolutely.
And, you want things to look nice. We have people looking at Eden all the time, not just to move here, but to move a business, industry. And believe it or not, aesthetics and quality of life is a big part of why somebody wants to move here or why they want to bring their employees here and their business here. You know, you want to be proud of where you live.
Well, that's a big deal too. The people who are bringing businesses here, they're not, when they're coming into the city, they're not driving down Kings Highway or 14, Meadow Road, the big roads, and looking where they're going to locate their business. Way before that ever happens, when we get to the point where we just got to say, you know, these people come in and they drive through the neighborhoods. They want to see how the people in Eden live.
Right.
And, you know, clean neighborhood, and they drive through all the neighborhoods, you know, and they want to see, you know, that people take pride in their area.
Sure. And another thing, it's a respect for your neighbor.
Exactly.
You know, we're all in this together. You talked about permits, this kind of thing. Tell us what people need a permit for. I don't think some people understand just what you have to have a permit for.
Actually, that is funny because we do a monthly report of everything. So this month we handed out 143 permits.
Wow.
Permits take anything that are building decks and anytime like air conditioners. If you have to changing out the air conditioner doesn't necessarily trigger ones, but if you have to upgrade your power, that trigger ones. Bathroom work that requires plumbing work. Any of that kind of stuff. Anything that will require a major updo. And so we handed out 143 permits last month, and it takes a while sometimes for permits to go, Bob inspected 283 permits that had already been pulled.
Wow.
Along with that, then we had the local code inspections, which it goes into the nuisances. And the nuisance is more high grass, but the local code inspections, we inspected 82 of those. And of those, we sent out 41 letters.
And how many inspectors do you have?
We have one. Well, we have one inspector, and now, because we're in active high growth season, Stephanie Land, that works in our department, she does high grass. She does the nuisance orders. So not only are we waiting for the neighbors to call us, which is what we do during most of the year, this is high grass season. So 3 times a week, Stephanie has a route. And the city is broke up into grids between her and Bob, and they go out and look. We're trying to preempt part of this stuff during this time of year. So sometimes when somebody calls and say, hey, there's high grass on such and such road, it's already been it's already in motion, and we know that. So that's why we're trying to get it in this time of year, stay ahead of the game, but so we don't get so far behind.
Okay. Well, Bob Vincent does an excellent job.
We are I don't think people realize how lucky we are. Bob has more knowledge in his head than most people have forgotten in their entire life.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's very good at his job. We're very fortunate to have him here in our city.
He has, we laugh about the UDO, he has this in his head.
UDO, that's another thing. Yeah. Tell us what the UDO is. We hear a lot about that.
So the Unified Development Ordinances, this is everything that guides us in the decisions in the planning department. This was redone in 21. This can be found on our webpage, on the city's webpage under the planning department. You can look it up. You can call and ask us questions about it if you don't, if you're not want to do that. I think the most important chapter, the chapter that I use the most when I use, is in chapter 5. There's a chart where you can, where'd it go? That will tell you where you are. You can look up the address, figure out what the zone is, and then you go across and it tells you what you can do.
Oh, great.
It's broken down by land use, by land type, entertainment, schools, manufacturing, opening businesses, where you can put a golf course. Just a funny thing. It breaks it down completely. And then there's things like, because it's either not allowed, or it's allowed with standards, which means you can do it, but then you got to follow certain things. That's in here as well. I actually, if anybody ever has any questions about this was so important to me. I just made a PDF of this. So if anybody needs it, I can send them just these pages.
Well, you talked about our website. There's a lot of things, important things on our website.
Absolutely.
Deanna Hunt is very diligent
Oh, yeah.
in keeping that updated and accurate and
Absolutely.
active. And so we appreciate her work
Right.
and what she does with that. But, any citizen, anybody is
All our
welcome.
department,
Go
yeah.
to that website and just check it out. I
Right.
mean, it's chock full of great information.
Right. Well, every department has its own tab. So, like under our tab, you can find, if you go down the UDO section, if you go to the planning department, those boxes down on the right side, the UDO is at the very bottom of that box. But there's applications for the grant applications for the downtown areas. There's applications right now. We have a board member opening from the historic preservation. That application is on there. There's the holiday list. If there's any questions about whether we're going to be open or not, every department has their holiday hours because we're all the same. Permits, you can pull your permits actually online for, if you know people who know what they're doing, and understand the process, who's done it more than once. You can pull your permit, email it to Bob. We put it in the computer. Somebody from finance calls you and you pay it over the telephone. We try to make this as easy and streamlined as possible.
That's great.
Yeah.
Permitting is important.
Yes.
Why?
Well, to make sure the work is done correctly. There's people out there who just think, oh, I can do this. And, they endanger their house, which endangers themselves. And not only that, when you go back to resale, there are people who know you can say, oh, I had a new air conditioner pulled in and we upgraded the box in 2023. Well, the people who are buying the houses, one of the first questions the realtors do when they do their due diligence is call us and make sure the permits were pulled.
Right.
So it can affect the resale value of your house if you do not do the work properly. Besides just being safe, I mean, there's people out there who I don't really want to work on. My father used to laugh at me. He told me that I was really good at a lot of little tinkering things, but I personally did not need to mess with electricity or water.
I understand.
Because those two things will do a lot of damage if not done correctly.
Yeah, fire, all kinds of things. You're risking not your life, but your neighbor's life and your.
But
your
even
kids.
A water drip in your crawl space, besides mold, it affects your foundation.
Yeah.
You can damage your floors from underneath. Yeah. Health issues from mold are horrible.
Yeah. So we need people to take the time.
And do
like
it
I said, you make it easy.
Right.
Go ahead and get that permit.
Well, and people tend to think permits are expensive, and they're really not. Depending on what you're doing, there's a base. And I don't know all of this because they don't allow me in the permit computer. I can put in inspections, but I'm not allowed in the permit computer. Permits, basically, for building permits and things like that, they are $50 for the first $1,000 of the project cost, and then $3 per $1,000.
Okay.
So
that's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if you have a $1,000 job or something, it's $50. And that isn't everything. And some things in other cities, that is only the permit and the paperwork for the permit. But that you don't pay Bob, we don't pay Bob again, to be inspected. That includes your inspections. Even if Bob sees something he doesn't like and they have to come back and redo something, we don't charge again to re-inspect. So Eden is very lucky in the way we run the permit department. And Bob is so good to work with. And we have a new planning director, Michelle Slayton. A lot of people in Eden have met, and a planner, Sarah Malone, and Bob, and even in the rest of the county, people have talked. Those three people understand that the UDO is full of information on how to do things, but they also understand there is real life. So there are ways you can, if you have questions about something can go to the planning. We have a planning board who oversees this book. And if something needs to be changed, it's written, we can, through a process, and it's not a short process, this can be updated and can be changed. And
that planning board is made up of citizens. Of taxpayers.
Yes, 10 of them.
So everybody
10
has a
volunteers.
voice.
Everybody has a voice. We do one from each ward, one from the mayor, and then 2 from the ETJ, because, the ETJ, some people don't understand that, is 1 mile outside the city of Eden. You still have to pull, if you live just outside the city limits, up to 1 mile, you still have to pull city permits.
Okay. We see the planning and community development at the podium a lot during city council meetings. There may be something in place, but there are instances where things can be changed, isn't it?
Absolutely. We have, besides the planning board, we have the Board of Adjustments. The Board of Adjustments does not have to meet as much as they did before this book was updated in 21. A lot of the problems that cause, some people can say they live in this particular area, but they really want rather to do this. So there is a couple different ways depending on the way to do it. There's special use permits where you can allow a nonconformity thing if it makes sense for the neighborhood. But then there's variances where we give people a say, yeah, this is not ideal for this area, but this really does work for this. So there's variances and special use permits and things like that. And we're also, if something is different now, because we know things are different. The reason this book was updated in 21 is because life is a lot different than it was in the 70s and 80s. So keeping this book up, and the state also, if the state changes anything, it changes.
Right. Some things are just mandated.
Some things are just mandated by the state. We have no choice, and we can't really change those. But there is difference between state mandated ordinances and city ordinances. So we really try to work with people. We understand that life needs to move on.
Yeah, you have a great staff in there.
Yes, we really do.
Everybody's very helpful, very knowledgeable, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, we really do. If you call in, because you call City Hall, we don't have our, you call this 336-623-2110. You'll get one of the lovely people who answer the telephone. And then you just ask for the planning department. And Martha Ratliff, generally, she joined us a couple years ago. I've actually only been there 4. But she answers the telephone most of the time. And then she sends it. Stephanie is a permit tech and does the nuisances and all that stuff. If you have any questions about how to do and reading this chart, Sarah Malone is your person. Economic development about opening businesses and grants and how to do some things like that is me. And big questions is Michelle Slayton. And Bob, if you have any questions about whether you need to pull a permit or what kind of permit, or even if something makes sense, Bob is the guy. Bob, he takes the time. He's in office in the mornings, generally between when we open at 8 till about 9:30, 10 o'clock, when he goes out. He comes back in at lunch. He eats his lunch at his desk, and we'll answer the telephone. And then he's back out in the thing. But also, we can also call him with questions during the day. Now, if he's in the middle of something, he tends to call back or something like that. But he will call you back if we leave him a message. And he does not mind answering the questions about whether you need a permit or whether, hey, I want to do this. Does this make sense? Because also in this is like, the people, like, if you want to put in a carport, okay, well, your carport can't be in the front yard. It has to be next to your house. Or setbacks, because there's a lot of neighborhoods that were built before this. And so there's some non-conforming stuff out there that we understand and, and
it's a lot of things.
It's a lot of things.
It's a lot of
working
things.
parts.
Property lines, setbacks, curb and gutter,
gutters.
all kinds of, there's a lot of catchphrases in that department.
Yeah, there is.
But it's all to keep us safe.
It is.
And to do it right the first time.
Right.
That's most important. It saves you money. It saves headache. It saves the city money. It keeps everybody safe. And so,
well, it really is. A lot of this stuff is to keep people safe and healthy. And sometimes we get considered the pretty police, and there isn't the aspect of keeping it nice and clean.
Yeah.
But it's most about safety, because if the person next to you is not doing something right and their house catches on fire, then you risk a whole neighborhood. Or if you don't put your fence in the right place.
Well, you think about a downtown area.
Oh yeah,
where there's shared walls and things. So it's very important.
Right. It absolutely is.
To do that.
Right.
So, okay. Anything else? That's a lot, and I know that's just scratching the surface.
Well, it is. And anybody has any questions? Nobody in our department, we all have jobs that we do, but if somebody's not there and we answer telephone, we get it to the right person, because sometimes there's also another aspect that we do, that we work with construction and engineering down below us. They used to be part of us. Now they're kind of like their own thing. So we may send you to a different department, but we're kind of the catchphrase of what happens. And we get a lot of phone calls, but we know where then to send them to, or if, and because like I said, I don't know all this book, but the stuff that I know, we do know, but I also know enough that I know how to answer a question.
Right.
And none of us are above.
Well, your whole department is versed on this.
Exactly.
And so there's lots of people that can help
Absolutely.
and guide you
Just
in the
call
right
us
way.
and talk to Martha, and she'll get you to the right person.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ken. That's
You're welcome.
kind of overload information, but it's great information.
Yes.
And so we thank you and your department for all you do.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, folks, we'll see you next month. We'll bring another city employee, another department, and we'll learn some more about what makes our city tick and work and just be beautiful. And so, and we'll talk about some things that you can do to help in that effort. So we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.